I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States.
Joe Biden declares victory in U.S. presidential election after winning Pennsylvania. Donald Trump is not conceding, and his campaign vows to challenge election results in court. And general election in Myanmar.
Hello and a very good evening. After several days of counting ballots, Joe Biden has emerged as the new US president, beating incumbent Donald Trump. The new president-elect is promising to unite a deeply divided country.
Trump, meanwhile, is digging in his heels, issuing a statement saying the election is far from over by launching a series of legal challenges. Peter Caveus begins our coverage.
Days after Tuesday's U.S. presidential election, several states were still counting votes. Both President Donald Trump and challenger Joe Biden had not reached the magical number of 270 Electoral College votes. Biden crossed the winning threshold with a win in Pennsylvania. After learning of his triumph, Biden struck a victorious tone.
The people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation, 74 million.
In a country that is deeply divided, Biden was preaching unity.
I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States.
He even offered an olive branch to those who didn't choose him.
Who voted for President Trump? I understand the disappointment tonight. I've lost a couple times myself, but now let's give each other a chance. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again. And to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies, they are Americans. They're Americans.
Now it's up to Trump to bow out graciously, but he is instead threatening legal action on ballot counting. And who knows how much assistance he will offer Biden in a transition of power.
And obviously that's an important thing to do, particularly when you're in the middle of a pandemic. But in addition to that, he could sabotage the workings of government in any number of different ways. And so we have a lot of reason to be concerned that his behavior over these next 2.5 months might be erratic or damaging.
Biden was critical of Trump's response to the coronavirus that has killed more than 237,000 Americans. Biden announced that as his transition kicks into high gear, he would appoint his own coronavirus task force on Monday. The U.S. is in the midst of another spike in cases, reporting 4 straight days of more than 100,000 infections. Peter Caveus, TVB News.
Well, Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris, is also making history. For the first time ever, the U.S. vice president will be a woman, a person of color and of South Asian descent. It's a breakthrough more than 200 years in the making.
But while I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last. Because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. And to the children of our country, regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see yourselves in a way that others may not, simply because they've never seen it before. But know that we will applaud you every step of the way.
Harris is the daughter of a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. As vice president, she will be scrutinized, but since Biden is the oldest president ever elected, she could be placed further in the spotlight. The 56-year-old senator from California clashed with the 77-year-old Biden during the Democratic primaries, but now they will work side by side.
Meanwhile, Trump has yet to officially concede the election to Joe Biden.
Instead, the U.S. president and his campaign have vowed to challenge the results in court.
As supporters of Donald Trump try to maintain a brave face, protesting against a stolen election, the U.S. president was keeping a relatively low profile. Trump was reportedly playing golf when news of his loss in Pennsylvania, and with it the presidency filtered through. While America and the rest of the world is already anticipating a Biden presidency, Trump has yet to follow tradition by calling Biden to congratulate him and concede defeat. Indeed, the Trump campaign has vowed not to concede the election as they plan a string of lawsuits to contest the results in some of the closely fought states where Biden won. Trump has also fanned the flames these last few days by taking to social media, alleging voter fraud, a rigged election, and claiming falsely that he was the clear winner instead of Biden. State and election officials have repeatedly said there is no evidence to back up Trump's claims of electoral fraud. Still, Biden may be in for a taxing legal battle before Inauguration Day on January 20th. Trump's personal lawyer, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, says lawsuits will be filed Monday, asking for a re-examination of mail-in voting in Pennsylvania. Biden's decisive victory in the state came after more than 3 days of uncertainty, as election officials sorted through a surge of mail-in votes that delayed the processing of some ballots.
As you know, from the very beginning, the mail-in ballots were a source of some degree of skepticism, if not a lot of skepticism, as being innately prone to fraud. There was no inspection of a single mail-in ballot.
Giuliani didn't offer much in the way of evidence to back up his claims, though. Meanwhile, a recount of votes is expected to be held in Georgia, while Trump wants a recount in Wisconsin, too. Trump's campaign has also filed a lawsuit over ballots cast in Arizona. And if all else fails, the Trump machine says it will take its challenge all the way to the Supreme Court. While Trump's inner circle urges him to fight on, other senior Republicans want the president to accept the result and proceed with a smooth transition. They warn that history could be a harsh judge of any action he takes that is seen as undermining his successor.
Meanwhile, analysts doubt Trump's attempts to legally contest the election will have any meaningful effect on the outcome, nor does his refusal to concede carry any legal significance. But the repercussions could be serious in other ways.
The Trump campaign has certainly made no secret of the fact that they are eager to pursue legal challenges. At this point, most of those legal challenges that they have tried to push forward have either been rejected by judges or have had no impact on the outcome of this race.
But I don't think it really presents any sort of constitutional issue or legal issue. There is no legal significance to the concession or the lack of concession. Trump isn't going to be president on January 21st, no matter what. The significance is more practical than that. The significance is that the concession is what tells your supporters that you accept the result of the election as legitimate and that everyone should accept the election and sort of move on. We should all try to work together going forward. And by refusing to concede, Trump is signaling that he doesn't accept the election as legitimate and that his supporters should not accept the election as legitimate. And that is potentially dangerous.
Celebrations sprang up in cities across America as soon as Joe Biden secured enough electoral votes to become the next president of the United States. Jameson Wong has that part of the story.
In Philadelphia, where the state's 20 electoral votes put Joe Biden over the top, celebrations to rival any of the city's sports victories. To the Big Apple, where it seemed they were bringing back the hit musical Stomp, using anything they could find to make noise, jubilant that their voices and votes were heard.
Hi, how you feeling right now?
I'm feeling, this is great. Associated Press, this is amazing. I heard screaming outside. I already knew what happened. I had to run here and celebrate with everyone, man.
In the nation's capital, thousands streamed into Black Lives Matter Plaza near the White House. Not lost on the folks here, the historic triumph of Kamala Harris, the country's first woman VP, who is also of Jamaican and Indian heritage.
Very happy, of course. Well, finally this is over, right? And we're moving on to a better era.
I'm so happy. I'm ready to bring everyone together again. Woo!
The scenes were no different on the West Coast. More dancing and smiling faces, although there were some die-hard Trump supporters among the crowd.
Will I accept the results if they're for Biden? I don't have a choice, then yes, of course. But Trump will still be my president.
That may be true until Inauguration Day, January 20th, when another party is expected. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Well, Peter Caveus looks at the political career of Joe Biden, who's set to become the 46th president of the United States.
It was third time's the charm for Joe Biden. After almost a half-century in public office and 2 failed attempts at the White House, the lifelong politician will finally become president. His first kick at the can was in 1988, but he dropped out after allegations of plagiarism. His second attempt in 2008 quickly ended after garnering less than 1% in the crucial Iowa caucuses. But that same year, Joe Biden became a household name, thanks to Barack Obama. The soon-to-be 44th President of the United States chose Biden to be his running mate. During their time in office, they established a new healthcare system dubbed Obamacare. It provided millions of Americans with medical coverage. Biden chose not to make a run at the White House in 2016 after the passing of his son Beau from brain cancer. It was not the first time he had to say goodbye to a loved one. Biden was first elected to the Senate in 1972 at the age of 29. Just a month later, his wife and baby daughter died in a car accident. His 2 toddler sons, Beau and Hunter, were hospitalized. And it was in their hospital room that Biden was sworn in as senator for the very first time.
I've refused to look at the records. I just haven't let myself look at all these years. It was 1972. But it took them over 2.5 hours in the jaws of life to save my boys. My one boy was in the back seat on top of his dead sister, and my other boy was on top of his dead mother. For 3.5, you guys saved their lives.
Biden's path to the 2020 nomination wasn't without speed bumps. His campaign hit a major stumble before it began, rocked by controversy over allegations of inappropriate, albeit non-sexual, interactions with a number of women. Biden denied any improper contact, but said he gets that social norms are shifting. His campaign also looked to be in trouble after a string of losses in the early contests. He rebounded with a resounding win in South Carolina. From there, he dominated Super Tuesday, launching what turned out to be an insurmountable comeback. In early October, the New York Post published an article that claimed Joe used his position as vice president to enrich his son. The report was based on documents taken from the hard drive of a computer that allegedly belonged to Hunter. Biden has overcome a lot and is now the oldest person ever elected U.S. president. Peter Caveus, TVB News.
Joe Biden's win garnered lots of media coverage on the mainland, and that includes state-run channel CCTV, which had an expert analyze Biden's proposed policies once he becomes president. But the station did not talk about Sino-US relations specifically. Mainland newspaper Global Times quoted a Fudan University scholar in an article who believes Biden will provide a breather in the relationship between China and the United States. There will be more cooperation between the 2 countries in areas such as anti-epidemic work, the scholar said. But it will take more time to rebuild trust.
World leaders are also reacting to Biden's victory. On Twitter, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson congratulated the new U.S. president-elect. He went on to say that the U.S. is the U.K.'s most important ally, and they will be working together on shared priorities from climate change to trade and security. The leaders of France, Germany, and Canada also feted Biden for his presidential victory. The 3 countries have had strained ties with the Trump administration, despite being G7 and NATO partners. Meanwhile, Israel's prime minister congratulated Biden and also praised the man he will replace in the White House. Benjamin Netanyahu thanked Donald Trump for recognizing Israel's annexation of Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, and for helping broker the recent diplomatic pacts between Israel and 3 Arab countries.
To other news now. Voters were out in large numbers in Myanmar today to vote in nationwide elections that are expected to return to power the party of Nobel Peace Prize laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party won the last elections in 2015 in a landslide. The result ended more than 5 decades of military rule in the country. With Myanmar under the threat from the coronavirus, mask wearing was mandatory in lines at the polling stations. Many voters also wore plastic face shields and gloves. Campaigning has been restricted because of the pandemic. With the opposition in disarray, Suu Kyi, who is the nation's leader with the title of State Councillor, remains Myanmar's most popular politician. And still to come on tonight's news. 3 new locally acquired coronavirus infections, including 1 more resident of Tai Po. And 3 deaths in a homicide-suicide case at So Uk Estate in Shan Shui Po. And a warm welcome back to TVB News. Hong Kong reported 10 new coronavirus cases today. 3 are locally acquired infections.
With a number of recent cases emerging in Tai Po, the government is stepping up virus testing services in the district. Jackie Lin reports.
After numerous new infections among Tai Po inhabitants, some residents of the district scrambled to collect COVID-19 test kits at this government clinic. This woman says she's scared stiff as she recalled having taken the same lift with a recently diagnosed COVID patient. Gripped by similar worries, this man says the building in which he lives also sees a new infection. This temporary booth in Tai Po will also run for 3 days, handing out and collecting specimen bottles. Their government-appointed testing operators have at least 1,000 test kits available each day. The test results will be out within 48 hours after submission. If they turn out to be COVID positive, the people involved will be notified by SMS messages. Earlier this week, 46 government clinics, including this one here, have extended their service hours to at least weekends for specimen collection and distribution. The 3 local cases reported today have untraceable sources of infection. They include a man who lives in Ponga Court in Tai Po and works at Everbright Center in Wan Chai. Another newly diagnosed, an expat, works at Champion Tower in Central. She lives with her family in Crasmont Villa, Discovery Bay. The last patient is a Pakistani woman who lives in Leung Ok Chun in the Pattern area of Yuen Long. More than half of the 7 imported cases involve domestic helpers from places including the Philippines and Indonesia. Jackie Lin, TV News.
A mother and her 2 children were found dead this morning in a Sham Shui Po flat with a gas leak. Police say the gas pipe was deliberately cut open.
As Pinky Wong reports, authorities have classified the case as a homicide-suicide.
Police received a report at around 8 a.m. about a suspected gas leak in a flat at So Uk Estate. Firefighters broke into the flat and found 3 unconscious people, including a 32-year-old woman, a 10-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old girl. They were rushed to hospital and later certified dead. The husband and father of the deceased was hospitalized after returning home from work only to find the tragedy. Staff members of the gas company were called to the scene as police investigated the incident.
The police found that there was a substantial amount of cloth and also paper being placed near the window and also near the door seals to prevent any air from coming in. And also the gas pipe inside the apartment was deliberately cut open. At the time of the fire service entry, the flat itself was locked from the inside. And there was no sign of any ransacking, nor was there any stolen property reported. We do not know what caused the unfortunate incident at this stage. However, we shall be performing autopsy tomorrow.
The police say there are no records that the mother was suffering from mental illness. No death note was found in the flat, and the case has now been classified as a homicide-suicide. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan visited the Census and Statistics Department ahead of next summer's population census. The exercise, conducted once a decade, will be held from June 23rd to August 4th. The department will begin hiring staff in mid-November, with university students expected to fill many positions. Because of the pandemic, protective gear will be provided to census officers working on the front lines. The public can also fill out questionnaires online. That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Bye for now. Good night.